Hello, we are the Sitting Room Bards, and we were giving a storytelling workshop at the Hampton Hotel. There were about 30 people there. Some people have lots of stage experience, some people have never been on stage before. Some of them were nervous, some of them were excited, some of them had no shortage of words to say. We gave them some basic elements that they can use when telling stories or in their own life, and we'd like to share them with you too.
So the first one that we used was creating safety. The most important thing. If people don't feel safe, they're not going to be able to really express themselves, and you're going to miss out on the juice of what they have. So to create safety, you've got to first you name the fears and the blocks that are there.
Sometimes you just see it. I mean, for me, it's this voice in my own head telling me, "Oh, that's rubbish. You look silly. You look ridiculous." I need to quieten that voice, and there's many ways of doing that.
And then you give people permission to be rubbish as well. Like me, I love to be rubbish at every gig I ever do and whenever I'm teaching. And Aiden too.
Yeah,
he's wonderful at being rubbish.
Thanks.
And so am I. And once people are allowed to be rubbish, then the good stuff comes, because you can't get the good stuff without the rubbish.
And was there anybody here who did have a moment who didn't know what was going to happen next?
Yeah.
And what was that like?
I think it's funny, before when I had a fuck up moment, I'd be like, and I'll just keep going on like that for ages, but the pause kind of helps. Instead of just going, for about 2 minutes or something, you know? So that was good.
And who was in, Simon, who was in Simon's group? What was that like as a listener? Did you notice that he was having a fuck up moment, as he called it?
It didn't come across as a fuck up moment.
Yeah.
Probably, I'm guessing, I don't know, I wasn't there, but I'm guessing it probably added suspense and said, oh, what's he going to say? Is that true, or?
Definitely there.
Yeah, I think maybe partly because if it had been, if I'd never met him before and he started telling me the story, but because we're kind of aware of the process, I think we were kind of aware of what was going on, but it was okay. And yeah, but I would say for me, it was like at the very beginning, I started with like, what's really going to tell, but I had to keep reminding myself that it was okay, and as I did that, it just became more comfortable and to be okay with
It takes time, but over time it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found I didn't not know what I was going to say next, but I did bags up a couple of lines. Like I said things in a very, very poor way, if you know what I mean. Like I'm doing it again now, but to a bigger group. But I just kind of self-deprecated a little bit. I just started to say that was a bit of a stupid way of saying it, and I found that was quite easy to work in, and it probably did help.
It defuses the tension.
Yeah, it's something to do with it. Yeah, I could use it. Yeah.
Another thing about fucking up, which is, it's very related to what I was saying earlier on, is just, if we're pretending that we're amazing and perfect, and then we do fuck up, then everything's fucked, right? It's fucked, because we were putting off this image of being amazing and perfect, and that's been destroyed. So as long as we're not pretending that, it doesn't matter. It makes a big difference. Yeah, it's actually good to burst your own bubble, even from the very start sometimes, because it makes everything a little bit more grounded and real. It's like, yes, I'm a human, I'm not perfect, and I'm going to do an amazing thing anyway. You know, I'm going to do a good thing anyway. Creative flow. So once people are feeling safe, then they can really let to start all the ideas and all the actions come. And the main thing for me in that is stepping out of my normal habits of thinking and behaving. So we use exercises and games to trick people out of their normal point of view and their normal way of behaving.
Now, we're going to get into groups of 4, and in this groups of 4, what I'd like is you to make a bit of space. 4 people over here, maybe 4 there, 4 there. Give yourself a bit of space. And 3 people will be the audience. And the audience have a very, very serious responsibility. It can be very difficult to be an audience when you know that you're next. Because you're thinking, what am I going to tell? Am I going to be good? I hope my story's good, and I'll remember the best story. Forget about being good. The idea is to be rubbish. Be as bad as you can. Okay, now's the time to be bad, to be bad, and just to maybe if you learn one little bit, then later on you can work on being good. But be a good audience member. Listen to the person, because they're going to need the encouragement when they're speaking, because it is a little bit difficult. And they're going to tell a 2-minute story. So find yourself a group. Okay, guys. Sometimes when I work on storytelling, this process could take 3 full days. We're going to do it in 1 minute. The beginning, the middle, and the end. So let's look at the opening scene, right? The person or the people, the audience that you're speaking to needs to have a certain amount of information. For Dave's story, we needed to know that it was a storyteller, because if we just went in, there's a samurai and a man, and then they fought, and you guys, it wouldn't make sense. So he knows once upon a time there was a storyteller. Now in this, you need to set up all the information that the audience needed. You know, it was Ireland. It was thousands and thousands of years ago. The place was filled with oak trees as far as you could see, and there was a man that lived in the forest. And the third point is being able to be still. Go from a place of expanding as much as possible, be as creative as you can, and then bring it back to a place where you inhabit the stillness. What happens in between the last word that you say and the next?
So what I want everyone to do is just watch me until I've done the pause, and then I've delivered the line after the pause, and then copy me exactly as I did it, okay? So, the thing about the pause is, often what you want to do is build up the energy beforehand, and that makes it more charged. And then what you say afterwards is even more powerful. So like this. I went up to her and my heart was bursting out of my chest, and I had this huge, stupid smile on my face, and my mouth was dry, but I licked my mouth and I said, can I just say something to you for just a minute? I just have to tell you that I'm absolutely, absolutely in love with you. And she said, oh yeah, thanks. Try that.
But no one will be able to remember.
Thanks, Aiden. Okay, so I got a bit carried away, but just do this. So I said to her, I'm in love with you, and she said, oh yeah, thanks. Okay?
Can we change that to him?
Yes, you can change it to him. Of course you can. So I said to him, I'm in love with you, and he said, okay, thanks. Okay? Go.
So I said to him, I'm in love with you, and he said,
Thanks.
I want the pause twice as long as that. So I said to her, I'm in love with you. And she said, okay, thanks. Go.
So I said, I'm in love with you.
and she said,
Thanks.
Okay, and now when you're pausing, you stay absolutely still. Don't do this, don't do that, don't look around. Absolutely still, because you're holding the attention of everybody in the room. So we're going to build up the energy more with it and hold it even more still. So I said to her, I'm in love with you! And she said, yeah, thanks. Go.
So I said to her, I'm in love with you! And she said, thanks.
Great, really good, really good.
There's a setup and the punchline. The setup is all the words that you use that are not funny without the punchline. And the punchline is called the comic reality. So the first is the real reality, all the real stuff that you need to understand the punchline. But the way this is delivered, if you're telling a joke, no matter what the joke, Paddy Englishman, Paddy Irishman, Paddy Scotchman, one of these jokes, it's the last words that you say. And I found a biscuit. And the way he does that, hold eye contact of stillness beforehand. If you say, I found a biscuit and that was it, those extra words will ruin the entire thing. A quick line that I sometimes use is, I believe in love, and I'm lucky I have love in my life. I've had 3 serious, meaningful, long-term relationships so far this week. So all of the information, I believe in love, I've had 3 serious, meaningful, long-term relationships. Pause. So far this week. Okay, that is exactly the same thing. And if you look at comedy now, if you look at any stand-up comedian, you'll see it. It's just that delivery. Say what you need to say, hold, and release. That is an invaluable thing for any joke or any story you tell.
One hand on the hilt. The storyteller faced him, his hand inside his sack of stories. absolute silence in the dojo.
Could everyone turn and face someone? Quickly now, just turn and face somebody. Okay, go with you. Okay, so guys, what I want you to practice really quickly is this. There's a hatch in front of your face. I want you to pull it open and look at the person on the other side of the hatch. And then close it again. Okay? Just try that a couple of times. Okay, really good. And guys, slow it down. Slow it down. Making a joke, but just too quickly, no. But if I've asked you for your attention and I'm doing something, it's actually my responsibility to give you something worthwhile. So it's my job to let that discomfort be there and let myself really hold it and go, here I am, and I'm opening the hatch. Hello. Come on.
Yeah, there's different ways of being in storytelling. There's 5 that I've read about. There's probably many more, but there's 5 that I'm aware of. And one of them is the place of the eye, and that's where it's the least amount of drama. It's just you're just being still, being the way you would be around someone in the world that you're the most comfortable with. You just kind of you're still on the inside. And I think the silence there, it's not really a silence. It's not like, because when we fake it, it's like, now I'm going to pause for 2 seconds, and you count the time. But it's just because there's words there, it's a place of no words is not a silence. Was it Simon said earlier, I used to go, sometimes we're not silent because even if we don't make noise, we move our mouth, or our eyes are not there. But to actually be still and hold it, it's not a silence. There's so much going on in that. The relationship between you and the listener. It's that's the moment where everything's nearly most alive. It's, what's going to happen next? So in summary, make yourself feel as safe as possible. Expand, create, come up with all the ideas you can and bring it back to a place where you can be still.
We know these ideas are really simple, but we find that when we practice them and we live by them, then they change not only our ability to perform, but our ability to express ourselves as human beings. So we hope you try them too, and get in touch if you have any questions.